From the Oregon State University Extension Service, this is Pollination, a podcast that tells the stories of researchers, land managers, and people like you who are making bold strides to improve the health of pollinators. I'm your host, Dr. Adoni Malathopoulos, Associate Professor of Pollinator Health in the Department of Horticulture. There are a few things that I like to do more than visiting one of the vineyards around Oregon, to one of their tasting rooms, having a glass of Pinot Gris or our beloved Pinot Noirs that we grow so well in the state, and just sipping the wine and watching the bees on all the flowers around the vineyard. Now, of course, you probably know this, insects are not required for the pollination of wine grapes, but nevertheless, as you may have remember from a previous podcast we did with Susan Sokol-Blosser from Sokol-Blosser Winery, that many vineyards in Oregon have a strong sustainability ethic. In addition, they have a lot of land that they're really interested in restoring to habitat for pollinating insects. One such vineyard is King Estate Winery down in Lorain, Oregon, which is close to Eugene. And we're joined today by Erin Green, who's the culinary garden manager, also beekeeper at King Estate. And she's joined by Katie Komen from the Save the Bees Foundation that's also located down in Eugene, Oregon. Together, they're hosting the first Pollinator Uncorked event at King Estate, which is the second to last event in the Oregon Bee-Friendly Wine Tour, where people have had the opportunity to taste Oregon wines and also learn some skills on how to help pollinators in their own gardens. This event's going to be great because it also includes a tasting of Oregon honey, as well as a tour of the remarkable gardens that Erin manages at King Estate. So in this episode, we're going to hear about the event, but also mine Erin's massive horticultural brain for plants that you can grow in your garden. It's really great. She's got lots of good insights, and it's just a little glimpse of what you'll be able to see on August 19th. So without further ado, let's head to the vineyard this week on Pollination. Hey, Katie. Hey, Erin. Welcome to Pollination.
We're excited to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to be here.
We are kind of, we're all virtual, but, we're going to be talking about Oregon wine country, and specifically King's Estate down in Lorain, which is outside of Eugene. Maybe Erin, just start off, just tell us a little bit about King's Estate.
Yeah, King Estate so we're just about half an hour south of Eugene, Oregon. We are just over 1,000 acres of certified organic and certified biodynamic vineyard. Of that, 430 to 450 acres is under vine currently. And the remaining acreage is all farmed biodynamically and organically, and we have 30 acres of production space, farm production. So that's orchards, berries, vegetables, cut flowers. And then the remainder is mostly like woodlands, grasslands. We have some wetlands on property. So it's a really special piece of land. We're kind of perched, at the very bottom of the Willamette Valley, but also in the Coast Range. So we're right on the edge of like a tremendous amount of wild space. Pretty much there's nothing to the west of us before you hit the coast. So yeah, it's a really beautiful vineyard. Sustainability is really at the core of all of our business values here, and really leads all of our choices, on the business side, the wine side, the restaurant side, as well as all of our agricultural endeavors. And yeah, we've been certified organic since 2002, certified biodynamic since 2016, and we're the largest biodynamic vineyard in the country.
Is that, there's so many things that you said that I thought were so cool. And one of the things that I thought was remarkable, I think when people think of, large-scale agriculture, they think, oh, it's farming from fence post to fence post. But there's it's just like a fraction of the property is in vine production. And there's woodlands, there's large oaks, there's orchards. It's a really diverse farm.
Yeah, it's quite beautiful. And every season has a different kind of specialty, right? So, like early in the spring, our orchards are blooming. And then the oaks start to open, and then then the apples will bloom. And then, we also have an acre of lavender. So a lot of people think of King Estate and see that picture of the castle on the hill, and in front is an entire hillside of lavender. So that blooms in July. We also have an acre of daffodils that blooms really early in the season, right by the entrance. So, there's always something that just really wows people.
Well, I can certainly attest to the wow. I mean, I've been to King Estate. We have an active project there, sampling for bees, but also recording the plant community, and there's a lot going on there. But one thing that's going on is coming up August 19th. King Estate is going to be partnering with the Save the Bee Foundation. Katie, why don't you tell us a little bit about this event that's coming up on August 19th?
So we're really excited about this event. It's called Pollinators Uncorked. And as you mentioned, it's the final event for the Bee Friendly Vineyard Project, which is a project of Oregon Bee. I screwed up your name.
No, it's okay. It is complicated because the whole initiative, we've been rolling it out this year, involves Oregon State University, but also Oregon Flora Pollinator Partnership, their Bee Friendly Farming certification live. There's a lot of different partners in this. It's kind of like but it is that's how we do things in Oregon, right? We sort of there's a lot of partners in pulling things off.
Exactly, and that's how you get things done. You can't go it alone. So the event's called Pollinators Uncorked. It's on Saturday, August 19th, from about 12 to 3. We're pretty excited about it. It's at its core a honey and wine tasting event. So what's interesting, honey and wine both share a sense of place in their flavors, and in wine we call that terroir, but the term terroir is not used in the honey world, which when I first came to Glory Bee, I was surprised at it, because you can't get much more terroir than honey. so we're going to be tasting Pacific Northwest honeys, as well as we're going to be tasting a honey from King Estate. So it's like ground zero honey. So participants will be able to taste the different flavors of honey. We'll have blackberry, and we'll have Oregon clover, and we'll have a couple of other surprises, and we'll have the King Estate honey from their bees, which you can just look over and see the bees who made the honey. We have delicious box lunches, so you can do some wine tasting, some honey tasting. You can enjoy your lunch out on the King Estate gardens. We'll have garden tours with Erin. We'll have Oregon Bee Project volunteers talking about native bees, because while Save the Bee focuses on honeybees, our work really does benefit native bees also, and I want to emphasize that. So we'll be talking about native bees as well as honeybees. We'll have a demonstration hive, so you can get a peek inside a working beehive. We'll have Dave the Bee, who is
Dave the Bee.
Dave the Bee is a 7-foot drone. He's the hardest working drone in town. We haven't thrown him out of the hive yet, so he'll be there. He's got a job, so he's not out of the hive yet. And for people who don't know, drones get kicked out of the hive. They're not critical to the activity inside the hive. Bees are female. What's that?
That's so
it hurts.
So cold.
Especially for you as a bee scientist. So we're going to have raffles. King Estate has generously donated some wine, and we're going to have some fun raffle baskets, hear about bees, and just have a good old time out there. Have some wine, have some honey, have some dessert. Erin is making cheesecake bites. I'm going to follow Erin around during this event. She's making blueberry cheesecake bite with, I think you're using King honey and you're using King blueberries. So again, eating food from the place where you're standing at such a treat. And that's what we got going on. And people can come. We'll bring it not only an observation hive, but we'll also bring a demonstration hive, which has no bees in it, just has the hive, so people can come and pick up things and imagine what it's like to be a beekeeper.
I think this has been the great thing about the tour so far. And we heard this it really came from a lot of the vineyard managers. They thought we're doing a lot to help bees. We have a lot of skills, and we'd love to be able to pass that on. So you can go home, you can come to a vineyard. Bring your family. There'll be lots of fun things to do. Enjoy some of the world-class wine, and then learn about something that you can bring home to your property. If you were always interested in beekeeping and just wanted there'll be somebody there who can walk you through some of the basic, the ABCs of getting started with bees.
And if you're not ready to get started with bees, there's steps you can do before that, which is, and they're really simple. Plant a flower, don't spray. So, and that'll help the bees. And you can do that on your front porch. You could do that if you don't have any property. You could do that in your parking strip, all kinds of things. So we'll be talking about that too, as well as we're getting a display from OSU that shows all the native bees, or maybe not all of them collected, but you'll get to be able to see them.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them, and they're pretty cool, as well as the volunteers will be catching them, not hurting them, but catching them and putting them on ice, as you say.
Oh yes, the bee safari. So
the bee safari.
Yeah, no, it's really great because as Erin knows, we've been coming every couple weeks to King Estate since the spring, and collecting bees. And we have a real good sense. It's really amazing, the biodiversity on a working farm that we've been able to document. So we'll be bringing those findings forward, but also it's a great chance to have an expert there to kind of, if you've been curious about wild bees, but it seems bewildering, there'll be somebody there to walk you through it. It'll be really wonderful.
That's what we'll really center our garden tour around that. We're going to be, walking around the gardens and really seeking out the plants that have the most bees on them on that day.
What is the most common bee you're finding, other than the honeybee, because there's hives there, the most common native bee you're finding on King Estate, the property?
I think it's too early to say, but I would say likely, like in a lot of places, and then yellow-faced bumblebee, which will be on the new Oregon bee license plate, very common, and we've been seeing them right from the spring. The colonies are fully mature now. Probably on the lavender in the evenings, there were males that were hanging out. But also this time of year, all of the sweat bees, the genus Halictus, they also form colonies, and they're big now. So oftentimes you see them. But one thing that I think people should look out for, that I always love, is when you go by the sunflowers, you'll be able to see the bees in the genus Melisodes, the longhorn bees or the sunflower bees, and they will be doing little delicate circles around, hitting every floret.
I saw one this morning sleeping in a sunflower.
Oh, that's
really,
so great.
I know, I got a video. I can send it to you, Anthony. I'm always sending videos to Anthony. Look. I saw him with the big, long staghorn. Oh, so sweet. So sweet. And Anthony, I'm seeing so many of those little teeny tiny bees. What are those?
Well, this time of year, you can get a big flush of the small masked bees in the genus Haleus. Oftentimes, when on all the asters or goldenrod, as it starts to bloom, you'll start to see them all over the place. But it depends how tiny. I'll come next time I'm down. I'll take a look, and we'll compare what tiny means.
Yeah.
So, how do people sign up for this event? What's the process?
So people can sign up. You can go to the King Estate, you could go to glorybee.com/King Estate Vineyard event. So, and there's hyphens between /King-Estate-Vineyard event, and they can sign up right there.
Okay.
Pretty easy to do. And then tomorrow today's the last day to sign. Oh no, you're going to be airing it.
Ah,
When are you airing?
oh yeah, it's going to be Monday.
Monday. Okay, if you want to sign up, we'll get you in on Monday. If you hear this on Monday and want to sign up, send me an
Do it.
email, Katie.Coman, CATIE.COMAN @savethebee.org, and we'll get you in.
Okay, I'm going to have that in the show notes. Follow the show notes. You can get information. And what time does it start?
Starts at 12 o'clock.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, well, I think one thing that everybody's curious about coming off this conversation are the plants. And so, Erin, I've been so, you're sitting in your workspace and you can just see behind you there's seeds and there's all sorts of you're really a horticulture. I'm always impressed at King's Estate. You have to master a lot of different plants. And so I did want to pick your brain here and maybe give people a sense of what they're going to hear about some of the pollinator plants starting in the spring that you really kind of rely on, that you think are like or maybe ones that are great but you really have a little bit of a trick to growing them.
Oh yeah, I mean this year my greatest success was an overwintered Phacelia seed that I mixed in with my regular cover crop. Our normal cover crop, we save all of our own cover crop seed here. It's a mixture of oats, crimson clover, white clover, rye. There's some vetch, and then there's also wild radish and wild mustards in that mix. So this year I sprinkled in some extra clover and I sprinkled in some extra Phacelia seed. And that overwintered better than any of my other cover crops. It's such a lacy fern frond flower. And I was shocked that it did so well. It just came up strong. We cut it down twice. It came back. It had 2 flushes. It was covered in bees all spring. It's certainly one of my newest favorite crops to grow. It also fixes nitrogen in the soil. So it's a great cover crop addition. What else do we have? And also, the wild, I think they often get overlooked. They reseed themselves really, really well, but the wild radish and the wild mustards, they do beautifully. They're thick, they're lovely, they get really high, and they're just covered in bees all spring long. In terms of the actual crops we grow for the restaurant, right now we're seeing a lot of bee action on our tomatillos, on our tomatoes, and on our artichoke flowers as well.
Which I guess, with the two, the tomatillos and tomatoes, bumblebees probably primarily.
Yep, they are covered in bumblebees.
But I imagine artichoke, I always think is great. There is a lot of bees, including honeybees, that just love anything in that thistle family, and I think artichokes they just like the flower just vibrates with bees.
Yeah, and they take very little to grow. Once they're established, they don't need much water, which is great. Also, kind of your classic herb de Provence mix, your Mediterranean herbs, your rosemary, thyme, oregano. All of those plants are really low maintenance. Once they're established, they'll just grow and grow, and they provide bees with a full season of food.
Let's maybe just back up a bit. I always think that rosemary is a great early spring bee flower, but I heard that many people there was a tough winter, that it is maybe not as winter hardy. Is that true?
I think there's a lot of different varietals. I would assume that maybe more of the landscape creepers and things have a harder time on a rough winter, but ours are all doing great, and we have really intense, harsh, our soil is really heavy out here, and we have really intense north wind all winter, so it gets really cold. And they look great.
Another thing I think in the spring at King's Estate that I really love coming up to the tasting room is all the Oregon grape. Both the Oregon grape, you've got a big patch, really kind of, and it looks good. Oftentimes Oregon grape doesn't look good, but you've somehow managed to make it look good. And then also your flowering currants.
Yes, the flowering currants are stunning. That's one of my favorite, first blooms in the spring. A lot of our landscape, it's very traditional kind of tea garden box hedges and those kinds of things. They're all kind of 35 years old at this point. So we have some long-term landscaping that's failing, that's dying, that's kind of tapping out. And we're really making a huge effort to replace those with native. So that's where the Oregon grape comes in. We also have some wild roses planted in blocks. And it's been really exciting to see how you can prune those. The Oregon grape we cut back once a year.
Yeah.
And then it kind of fills out through the center. But yeah, those ones were beautiful. When they flowered, they were covered in bees.
I'd never actually seen, there's no vineyard I know of, and I haven't actually seen anybody use Oregon grape as a kind of a centerpiece like that before. So I was really stunned to see it.
I've never heard of anyone pruning Oregon grape either. I'm going to go out and do that to my Oregon grape when the time is right.
I know you should. It really does. It widens. And right now, the ones in that center island that Anthony is talking about, they're getting really tall and they're laden with fruit. So they're starting to kind of bend down. They have these big fruits on them. So then, once those have kind of dried up, we'll come through and cut them.
Is there a trick to pruning it?
No. I mean, you're really just pruning for size. So you want it fully established. And generally the rule with pruning anything from fruit trees to woody shrubs, never take more than a third at a time. So you want to make sure that your plants are established 2 or 3 years old. They're doing really healthy. And then you want to kind of cut to the size you want within reason, within staying within, that 1/3 kind of margin.
Tell us a little bit about the flowering currants. It seems the varieties you have are stunning. They're Ribes sanguineus, I imagine, but they must be cultivars. They look beautiful.
They are gorgeous, and they predate me. They've been here longer than I have, and I'm not sure of the exact cultivar, but I do know that I love them. We have a new planting project. So we took out the boxwood hedge on that island as well, and we replaced it with a strawberry tree. I have the Latin name right over here, and that one I'm really excited about. So that's going to fruit in the winter, and it blooms all through November.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, I
imagine as a beekeeper as well, both of you are beekeepers, but I imagine knowing that you're going to have something that's going to come into bloom in the early fall is exciting to you.
Yeah. And something that looks nice as the entrance during the holidays. So many people come to pick up wine for gifts and come and celebrate with their families in town. To have something kind of showy and colorful as you come up that hill in November, December is going to be great.
Erin, what are some of the mistakes that people make when they say, because you've talked about transitioning it. You've got an old landscape, maybe you bought a new place and you want to go to a pollinator, create a pollinator space, and you don't have a lot of gardening skills. I know what I did. I just planted everything way too close together and I'm regretting it.
Yep. That is a common mistake. I also think that people don't do as much ground prep as they should. There's all kinds of YouTube videos and things of like how you can turn a grassy area into a really healthy like seed bed or place to plant transplants. And really it's like, you don't have to dig up your grass. You can build on top. So that kind of lasagna layer is a really good one. That'll help you kill the weeds without breaking your back. So you really get like cardboard with no plastic. You make a couple layers, you wet it down, and then you bring some compost in on top and you let that set over the winter. And then you can plant straight in the spring. Another common mistake is not watering regularly. That's a big one. I think a lot of people think they don't have a green thumb, but really they're just not watering on a regular cycle. Some plants really they don't need a ton of water, but they need regular water. So even plants that don't need much water, unless they're a drought tolerant plant, they need water once a month. Or once a week once they've been established. So it's just really knowing your water needs, knowing your light levels and what likes full sun, what likes full shade, and some good ground prep. That cardboard compost system I was talking about, that really brings all that native biology up. The worms love it. It keeps it keeps the soil really moist, and that creates all of this habitat down there. So all of these worms and small bugs and things come up to that moist surface and start to break down the cardboard. And then what's next is that compost layer. So really you're just providing food and a moist habitat for all that microbiology that'll help your plants grow.
Okay, that's what I guess the other mistake that I haven't quite perfected, and I know when I come to King's Estate, I can see what it looks like when it's done right is just pulling the elements together, because there's pollinator plants. Like one gets a list of plants, and you already talked about, knowing if it's full shade or sun or what kind of drainage it needs, but also just tying the elements together so that it, I loved how you talked about the strawberry tree and just having you're envisioning somebody coming into the space and the seasons. And tell us, what's the trick to that? Like, is that also just a YouTube problem, or I guess visiting a lot of gardens? Coming to this event would be one way to do it.
Yeah, and talking to gardeners, even your neighborhood, reaching out to your neighbors, walking through your neighborhood, looking at what's doing really well. I mean, that's something that I've done as I've kind of entered, into more of kind of proximal to the landscape departments. Is looking around and seeing what's thriving, where is it thriving, and then multiplying that. So in your big, new planting, maybe some things have failed. Tough love, get out of here. Maybe that one's not meant to be there. Like some of my favorite gardeners let plants be where they want to be, like kind of loosening your grip on things and letting things kind of evolve in a more natural way is a really sweet way to kind of let the land really express itself, and the plants that want to be there kind of come to the fore. And mulch.
Mm-hmm.
That's also the secret, that kind of cardboard, compost system. Like that's your first layer of mulch. You can plant into that, but then I mulch like crazy. I don't think there's enough mulch in the world. Wood chips and compost mixed together. Straw, leaves in the fall, just pile them up, and then you won't have to weed. That kind of really taps down the weeds, and it supports your plants, and it keeps the moisture there where they need it.
And the ground bees love the mulch, right, Anthony?
Yes.
Well, there's a thing there, and I'm glad you broached that, because there are people, most bees, the bees that nest in the ground want bare dirt.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this whole thing, but bumblebees will often find like loose soil to winter, and so they'll probably be eating the mulch there at some point. But that has had some gardeners worried, like, do I have any bare ground anywhere? I've mulched, and I really try to emphasize, what Erin has said, that for just basic keeping your garden, keeping the water retention, keeping the weeds down, heavy mulch, you're always going to have like a pathway. Like there's all sorts of bees, even though you're a heavy mulcher, that are nesting on the side of the road, on the dirt road, or there's always bare ground somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And so I would hate somebody who kind of like goes thin on it, and then the plants aren't doing so well, and they've got weed problems, and it's like they're doing it for the bees. I'm like, oh, don't do that.
Yeah. So I'm a rank amateur gardener. So what I did for our pollinator habitat next to our beehives is I just took the OSU pollinator habitat card and I lined it up with my garden and we planted. You don't have to be, somebody else, I figure somebody else way smarter than me did all this work. And so I'm just gonna, maybe minus a few of the trees in there, but yeah, we've got the OSU pollinator habitat in our backyard right now.
Katie, you think I'd be wise enough to do that? Is I was associated with that project, but no, I go to the plant place and it's like, ooh, they've got these. I was gonna start plugging those in. Oh my god, they have. I recently got from Dancing Oaks miniature ocean sprays. I was like, oh, I need these, but it's like, and then I got them home. I was like, where the hell am I gonna put these things?
Planning is key. That's a good one. Make a map.
I know.
Anyways, you will come to this event, folks. You will get, this is just a taste of the conversation that you're going to have. And maybe just to wrap the episode up, Katie, we had Alan Taransky on a earlier episode talking about the Save the Bee Foundation. Why don't you just give us like the overview of what it is and what your role is? Yeah.
Sure. So Save the Bee started as a social initiative of Glory Bee about 10 years ago. And it really was founded, Glory Bee is essentially a honey company, although they do sell quite a bit of sugars and other organic products for manufacturers. So it started right around the time, maybe a little bit after colony collapse disorder came to the fore, and Glory Bee started raising money. Of course, bees are very important, and Glory Bee is a B Corp, the letter B Corp, and so the focus on sustainability and environmental protection is in the DNA of the organization. It comes from the founder through the second generation, who was Alan Turansky. So less than a year ago, we became a 501c3 officially. So we're an official nonprofit now. And I was hired as the first executive director. And so what we're doing is we have really 3 focus areas. And we focus on planting pollinator habitat to feed those hungry bees. We focus on supporting bee research, and we give unrestricted grants to qualified scientists as well as to bee labs. Most of our support is focused at OSU Bee Lab, which is one of the best bee labs in the country. But
You're here.
do. What's that?
Here. It's just down the hall. They're so awesome.
But we have also given grants to other Bee Labs, Minnesota, Washington, other places. So to really look at kind of the root causes of what's going on with our honeybees. And as well as we have a third area, and we're really trying to inspire the next generation of beekeeper, bee lover. So we do a lot of education, provide resources, as well as we are getting a program up off the ground, which is an expansion of an existing program. And we are bringing low-income women into commercial beekeeping and training them, and getting them prepared for a career in commercial beekeeping, because you don't need a college degree to be a beekeeper. I would argue, some people would argue that women are better beekeepers. Some people would argue. And certainly women do a lot of queen rearing, so making queens for hives. And so getting women into this area, the average salary for commercial beekeepers is about $50,000 a year. The average salary for a woman who does not have a college degree is about $39,000. So you can see it begins to bring them away from the poverty line, especially if they are single parents. So those are the 3 areas that we work on. Now, our work, we focus on honeybees, but our work really does benefit all bees. I'm team bee 100%, but I am a hobby beekeeper, and I do love honeybees.
Well, I can see how this not only are King Estate and Glory Bee located in the Southern Willamette Valley, so you're kind of proximate neighbors, but I can see how there's a lot of connection between both of your commitments to sustainability. And this is going to be a super exciting event. I'm really glad for all of you that have signed up. You're going to have a great time.
Yeah. And I guess we should probably say we're going to be tasting Pinot Gris, a white wine from King Estate, and Rosé from King Estate. And then Ale Song's going to be here too, pouring taste of their new Saison beer, and that was made with Queen's Bounty honey. And Queen's Bounty is also a territorial kind of highway Lorraine bee company as well.
Man, this is going to be great. And if you haven't been out to the property, it's going to blow your mind. Seriously.
Yeah.
The gardens and the farm and the orchard, it's not really part of the public facing side of the estate. So it's really special to get a chance to kind of look at the back and the flower gardens and our berry crops and things like that.
Well, thanks you two for taking time to tell us about the event. And I am it's really great that you guys are partnering up on this. I think this is a really super example of how we do things in Oregon. And
I should add, tickets are limited, so get your tickets because we're capping them. So come on down. It's gonna be a good time.
Well, I forgot, and if you aren't able to get into this event, there's one more event on the tour on September 17th at Stoller Family Estate up in Dayton. So one way or another, you'll be able to enjoy some wine and learn about bees. Thanks again, and good luck with the event.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Show notes with links from each episode are available at the website pollinationpodcast.oregonstate.edu. I also love hearing from you, and there's a form at the website where you can pop in and say hello and give me feedback. If If you want to support the show, remember to leave a rating on iTunes, Spotify, or whatever podcast mothership you use. And finally, if you have the means and you want to help support my lab's effort to document bee biodiversity in Oregon, visit OregonBeeAtlas.org and follow down to the donate button where you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Jerry and Judith Paul Native Pollinator Endowment. Every little bit helps. See you next episode.